Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FantasyGreek.com's NFL Football Power Hour. This is Jim Sarantias of the FantasyGreek.com, joined by Keith Grieve of 87 Sports Fans. We're now in the second half of the FantasyGreek.com's NFL Power Hour, and before we get to Ahmad Alawi and our discussion about the Jacksonville Jaguars, just want to remind everybody, or if you're hearing this for the first time, tell you about the Fantasy Greeks NFL Draft Night to benefit WITS Chicago, which takes place the night of April 30th from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. at the Cubby Bear right across from the historic Wrigley Field. Voted one of USA Today's top 10 sports bars. To get into the event, it's $50, which includes a food and donation, as well as an entry into a live raffle of various autographed sports stuff and gift certificates. Come on out. It's a great time, obviously, to enjoy the draft, to celebrate football in the spring, meet friends, make new friends, and most of all, just have a bunch of fun. There's a link right on the homepage of thefantasygreek.com where you can buy tickets, or go to eventbrite, BRITE.com, type WITS, W-I-T-S, and it'll take you right to our homepage for the event. Plus, Keith, tell everybody what else they get to enjoy on the night of the draft.
The witty repartee between the two of us as we break down pick by pick. And it was a pretty, I thought, entertaining show.
It was really an entertaining show
last season. You're gonna know what you're going to hear from all the talking heads everywhere else. So turn on the TV if you can't come out to where Jim is. Mute the TV and then put us on in the background. And you know what? Even call in, join the conversation at the station line. This is the one opportunity you have to kind of talk sports with people that maybe you don't see every day, every week. You know, that we're not a couple of idiots either. But talk sports as they happen at latenightsportsradio.com.
Keith, thanks for reminding everyone out there that we are not idiots. And that having been said,
well, I shouldn't speak for you. I'm sorry. I'm just speaking for myself.
You really shouldn't. That having been said, let's move on to the second half of the show. We've got from the FantasyGreek.com Ahmad Alawi, who covers the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Fantasy Greek, is a contributing writer to the Fantasy Greek. Ahmad, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Listen. It's been long enough, but with only about 20 minutes to go in the show, 25 minutes to go in the show, let's get right down to it. We're in year 3 of the Gus Bradley experience over there in Jacksonville. And how's he doing, Ahmad? What do you think are the good things he's done and maybe even some criticisms?
Let's start off by the good things. He's brought that culture from Seattle that hopefully can get us in the right direction. You know, the players love him. He's a player's coach. Him and David Call have been showing the ability to bring some talent in free agency. So it's not the old Jaguars back in the early 2000s where that slump was happening where free agents just wouldn't come. Another positive actually is the fact that he would get rid of a coach that is not performing up to his ability when he released Jed Fish and just created a new offensive staff. You know, the Jaguars' offense last year was atrocious, and when he needed to see something that needed to be done, he brought in Greg Olson and a completely revamped staff, and that's a positive because you don't want to be stuck with somebody that's going to cost you your job in the long run. Now, a negative is sometimes just little minor things so far I've seen, you know, like challenging plays, things, because he is a first-time head coach with the Jaguars. Hopefully that experience over the past 2 years, along with some veteran coaches that he's added to the staff, such as Doug Marrone, can help him out as a whole. But I'm pretty happy so far with Gus Bradley. This is definitely a big year, though.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that coaches that walk into situations like him just when it seems like they're about to turn things around. The season's over, another losing record, or the fans turn on them. So let's hope they do something this year because, I mean, when you look at a franchise like the Jaguars, they made a great move in bringing in Gus Bradley, coming from such a winning franchise like the Seahawks. They'd be ashamed to lose him so quickly. Now, another sort of one of the biggest moves they've made so far this offseason has been the signing of tight end Julius Thomas. What does this signing mean to the Jaguars offense and the other players on offense?
Julius Thomas is actually a huge signing for Jacksonville just because the fact that he will instantly become that veteran leader on the offense side of the ball. Mercedes Lewis hasn't, since that 2010 year where he went to the Pro Bowl, he hasn't lived up to expectations, drop passes. He's been injured a lot. We just haven't had that presence over the middle and the red zone from the tight end position. Now, Julius Thomas offers a completely different skill set. He's a mismatch nightmare coming out of the slot. He's not the greatest blocker, but he will be able to be that key red zone target and across the middle for Blake Bortles. He's definitely the number one red zone target right now on the team, and going forward, it looks like he's going to be Bortles' go-to man until one of the younger receivers steps up.
So you've got the Jaguars. They've got their quarterback of the future in Blake Bortles, arguably their tight end of the future in Julius Thomas. What's next? Running back, wide receiver, some other position on the team?
If we're going to stay on the offensive side of the ball, I definitely think we need that workhorse back. Wide receivers, last year we took Marquise Lee and traded up into the back end of the second to take Allen Robinson. They both showed flashes, especially Allen Robinson last year until he broke his foot. He was actually leading the NFL rookies in receptions for the first, I believe, 6 or 7 weeks until that broken foot. But, they're still unproven. So that at least we have something that we can fall back on for this year and watch them grow. But from the running back position, they've already talked about Toby Gerhardt's moving to an H-back. Similar, they want to use him similar as Oakland did with Marcel Reese. Denard Robinson showed some flashes last year, but is he going to be that workhorse for them? I don't think so. He's a great change of pace back, but I believe that we need that workhorse like Jacksonville has been accustomed to for the past 15 years with Fred Taylor and MJD, and now we need the third back to continue that success from Jaguars running backs.
I think you hit it right on the head. It doesn't seem that Denard Robinson, physically, I don't know that he could hold up to the kind of beating that a premier running back has to go through. And then Storm Johnson didn't seem to step up into the void.
Yeah.
So it certainly is a position that they could address in the draft. What about the wide receiver position? We've got a set of wide receivers now, and I guess my first question is, are things settled at that position?
I don't think so, not yet. They like David Caldwell came out and said that Jaguars general manager, they want to keep Marquise Lee and Allen Robinson on the outside. Now, the one thing that's missing is a veteran presence. They tried with Greg Jennings. They tried to sign Randall Cobb, but the main thing they want to do is find a slot receiver that's going to be able to just take over. There's not very many veterans out there anymore. Greg Jennings would help the younger receivers at that position, but I think Caldwell is going to look into the draft. I don't think they're going to do it at number 3 if they stay up there. Nobody thought they were going to go with Blake Bortles last year at number 3, but the wide receiver position definitely out of the slot is what they're looking to add.
What about Justin Blackman? I mean, and I hate bringing him up. It hurts me to bring him up because we've all believed him so much, he seemed to be a great hope for the team, and yet he's disappointed basically with his off the field issues. What can you say about Justin Blackmon and the 2015 Jaguars?
Justin Blackmon, I do not believe is going to be coming back this season. It actually would shock me. I was actually doing some research on Blackmon for the past couple of days up to the show, and I noticed a picture that he looks like he's gained about 30 pounds since he's been last in the Jaguars uniform. He's out of shape, and it's just really sad to see somebody with such talent essentially just throw it away. Because when he was on the field, he was productive with below average quarterback play, and he could bring an element to the Jaguars that we haven't had in a long time. But he hasn't been reinstated by the NFL yet. There's no paperwork that's saying that he's even applied to be reinstated, and these recent pictures that have been appearing on the internet, it doesn't look like he's even focused on coming back to the NFL. Now, hopefully he's getting his life together from an alcohol and substance abuse standpoint, but as of playing on the Jaguars next year, I'm not so sure that's going to happen.
You know, and I'll tell you what, Ahmad, photographs of me on the internet probably put about a good 10, 20 pounds on me. I'm only saying that because who knows?
Yeah, that's very true.
But I agree with you. At some point, the Jaguars have to consider cutting bait with Justin Blackmon. Obviously, they don't want to lose out on if he's finally turned everything around. But sooner or later, people are going to say, you know what, it's just better we move on. And if things work out for him, well, that's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we've got the draft coming up in just 2 weeks. Besides running back, what other kinds of positions do you see the Jaguars considering drafting this year?
When David Caldwell first came into the Jaguars, he said there was 3 main positions that for every great team. That was left tackle, who they drafted Luke Jokel in the first round. Last year, he said the second one was quarterback, and they drafted Blake Bortles in the first round. And his third piece was a defensive end. Now, the D-line did pretty well last year, but it wasn't up to the success that you need to have every single game to run Gus Bradley's defense. So the number one need, I believe, is to find that edge rusher that's going to create havoc for a quarterback every game, especially playing against Andrew Luck every week. So number one.
All right. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say, well, with that being the case, if you're David Caldwell, you're the general manager of the Jaguars. Who are you drafting?
That's a really tough
at number
question.
three. At number 3.
Okay, that's a tough question because this class is full of edge rushers that all create a different skill set. But if I'm sitting at number 3, I can't pass on Dante Fowler Jr. Just the way he plays, he's so violent. He's a Florida kid. Him and Gus Bradley would be a perfect fit. They have the same attitude and passion for the game, and he does fit the mold as a Leo rusher for the Jaguar system. And I believe that he would be a perfect fit for Jacksonville.
That's a pretty bold pick. I mean, I think because he's certainly not one of the people that are necessarily in the discussion at number 3. But nonetheless, I think you bring up some excellent points as to would he fit the mold that Gus Bradley is looking for. And if they could just add that one piece to that defense, it should help them out primarily in their pass defense.
Yep. The other pick, like the best player available might be Leonard Williams, but Todd Walsh, the defensive line coach, said that Leonard Williams in Jacksonville's scheme would be a 3 technique defensive tackle, and that unless they are not sold on Senderick Marks coming back from that ACL injury, I don't know what they would use that number 3 overall pick for as a rotational 3 technique, especially with the signing of Jared Odrick at the big defensive end over on the other side, which Leonard played in college.
Are there any other players in the draft that sort of pique your interest that either you could see the Jaguars considering or you just generally like?
Yep. There's a couple. We need a replacement for Paul Puslensky, and the middle of the defense. You drafted Telvin Smith last year for outside linebacker. He provides that speed that you need. But Paul is not a great coverage linebacker, and the kid out of Clemson, Stephen Anthony, I absolutely love watching him the past 2 years play against FSU, as I'm a huge FSU fan. He is great in space. He's a sure tackler. He fits that modern day how the NFL is used, their linebackers are used now, covering the field and being able to come up in the box and hit somebody. And I would love to see Jacksonville be able to get their hands on him, maybe the second round. Some people are saying he might go in the third. In the second position is free safety. This class is not the greatest at free safety. Landon Collins, he fits either the strong safety or free safety mold. I don't think he's going to be able in Jacksonville pick unless a trade down in the first, but somebody to keep an eye on is the kid from Fresno State, Ron Smith, who has the range to play, and he is a good mid-round prospect that Jacksonville could possibly use to replace Josh Evans.
All right, Ahmad, it's time to put you on the hot seat.
All right.
This is a big year for Gus Bradley. You've already identified that. Seems like they're a couple players away from actually maybe not unseating the Colts, but maybe making a stand.
Yep.
What do you think? Do the Jaguars finish better than 8-8, or do they miss 8-8 again? What do you think?
I think 8-8 is the target everybody's looking for. I don't think they're going to finish better this year. They're still really young. I think the number of players on the team that are 30 or over is maybe 3. This is a big year, though. They have to show owner Shad Khan that there's being improvement, especially after going down in wins last year, even though the product on the field was better. I believe 6 to 8 wins this year would be a nice thing for the fans with no blowouts, no sloppy play, but just good competitive football that will give Jaguars fans all around some hope that the year after they can be a playoff contender.
And you know, Ahmad, I think you've hit it right on the head. It's going to be really hard for this team to really make some big noise this season, but they should still be making noise. It's certainly an opportunity for Blake Bortles, even if he has a rough start to the season, to show that by the end of the season, he's playing at an NFL competitive level and helping this team win some games. Definitely.
We need it. We need that quarterback presence. Quarterback is everything in this league, and Dave Caldwell picked one at number 3, and he's got to come up this year. Yep.
Go ahead, Ahmad. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Ahmad, are you done? Because you broke up on me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just basically saying that this is the year they got to make some progress.
All right. Well, Keith, how much time we got left?
Oh, about 30 seconds.
Well, there we go. Ahmad, listen, thanks for being on the show. Ladies and gents, that's Ahmad Halawi. He's a contributing writer to the FantasyGreek.com, covering the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm Jim Sarantias. For Keith Grieve of 87 Sports Fans, this is the FantasyGreek.com's NFL Football Power Hour. You can catch us every Wednesday night from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To all our listeners, you're the best. Good night, good night, good night.
Turn out the lights, the party's over.